Have you ever noticed that some cables feel ridiculously light in your hands and others feel ridiculously heavy? Why is that? Imagine you're lifting 100 pounds on a cable stack in 3 different scenarios. In scenario A, only one cable directly attaches to the weight stack. In scenario B, a pulley with 2 cables coming off of it attaches to the weight stack. And in scenario C, 2 pulleys with 4 total cables attached to the weight stack. In scenario A, where there's a direct attachment, you are lifting 100 pounds. In scenario B, you're actually only lifting 50 pounds because the weight gets distributed through 2 different cables, so what's in your hand ends up being only half the weight on the stack. And in scenario C, because there are 4 cables and the weight is distributed through 4 different places, you're only lifting a quarter of the load. So it makes sense that cables with more pulleys are lighter, right? Wrong. Most companies already account for this. So what the weight stack says is actually the force that's going through the handle. But cable stacks do feel lighter and heavier, so what actually makes the difference here? It's really only in how much or how little the weight stack moves. So watch what happens when I move the A version of the stack, the one with the direct attachment. You'll notice that it moves 100% of the distance that my hand moves when I move the cable. Now watch what happens when I move the B stack, the one with one single pulley. You'll notice that it actually only moves 50% of the total distance that my hand is moving. Now guess what happens to the C stack? It now only moves 25% of the distance. So what the hell does this actually do and why does it matter? Well, imagine you have 3 cars, each of which represents each of the stacks. Car A drives 1 mile, car B drives half a mile, and car C only drives a quarter of a mile. Now imagine each car has the same amount of time, let's say 30 seconds, to travel their distance. Car A needs to travel roughly 100 miles an hour to travel a mile in 30 seconds. Car B, though, only needs to travel at 60 miles per hour, and car C only needs to travel at 30 miles per hour. So the farther the car moves in the same amount of time, the faster it needs to drive. It's pretty obvious. So when you move a weight stack more in the same exact amount of time, the weight stack itself needs to travel faster, meaning that you pulling on the handle need to generate higher force. So what's the simple takeaway? Well, stacks that move more in the same amount of time feel heavier, and stacks that move less feel lighter. And I actually do think that this is important for your gains because oftentimes the stacks that move less feel a lot smoother. And when they feel a lot smoother, they actually feel typically better on people's joints. So if you don't need a ton of load for an exercise and you have the option to choose between different cable stacks, I would generally choose the one that moves a smaller distance because it'll probably feel smoother, and in the long run, it may end up feeling a bit better on your joints, which is obviously super important for growing muscle.